Hello everybody and welcome to another weekly N.E.S.T reading. I'm Kat and today we'll be reading My Brother's Wheelchair. I decided to do this book because even though it is a very short story, it's only 12 pages long, I think I haven't really had a chance to do any poetry with you guys, and this book in particular holds a very heartwarming story about disability, which not a lot of children's books cover. So I really wanted to discover and explore a story like that with you. And because it is essentially a poem, it makes learning the language a lot easier. And if you want to practice your pronunciation or tone and pronunciation are areas that you struggle with, this is the perfect story for you guys. With the rhymes that come with this story, it is quite simple, but it is great for your pronunciation and it really helps you get the tone of the language, and we'll go through that as we read through the story. As usual, we will be going through bits of the story and then I will go back a few pages and go through any vocabulary that I think might be quite difficult, or things or phrases that I think are quite unusual, so I need to define it a little bit to make the reading a bit easier. And then at the end I'll have a few fun questions for you to answer. Okay, so let's begin with My Brother's Wheelchair. The first page. Here's me and my brother on his wheelchair. Everyone who sees us says we make a crazy pair. He has painted both the wheels in blues, yellows and maroons, and sometimes, just for fun, he also ties balloons. My brother's very smart, he's got plenty of brains, he helps me across puddles when it rains. When we go to the park in the evening to play, he uses a horn so people make way. Okay, so that's page 6, and let's go back to the first page. So on the first page we see the sister and the brother holding hands with balloons in the air with their back facing us. So here's me and my brother on his wheelchair. Everyone who sees us says we make a crazy pair. Okay, so I will just go through some vocabulary here. So the last word, pair, says we make a crazy pair. P-A-I-R. This word means two people that are connected in some way or that are considered together. So a husband and wife, they make a great pair. So an amazing couple. Or just you and your friend could be called a funny pair. And there is also another word that sounds exactly the same, which is spelled P-E-A-R, pear, and that is the fruit, the pear, the English pear. But with P-A-I-R, it means two, something that you combine one and one together. Okay, and then the next page. He has painted both the wheels in blues, yellows and maroons, and sometimes just for fun, he also ties balloons. Okay, so on the first line, he has painted. So to paint something, the verb is to cover the surface of something with paint. So you paint a wall, and in the picture you can see that he is painting the inside of the wheel. And a wheel, just to make sure that everyone understands, it means the round object that makes a vehicle go forward. So cars, buses, trucks, skateboards, they all have wheels, and it enables it to move quickly. And with the colours, blues, yellows and maroon is like a brown red colour, and you can see two maroon spikes in the wheel. And that's what the girl is using to paint with. And the last line, he also ties balloons. Okay, so with a balloon is you can see it on the page. They're surrounded by the balloons. They're like the circular patterned objects, and it's basically the things that are filled with air, and it can float, and it's used for parties and happy occasions. And the next page, my brother's very smart. He's got plenty of brains. He helps me across puddles when it rains. Okay, so on the second line, she says, he's got plenty of brains. Plenty of brains is just another way of saying someone's very smart, someone's very intelligent. He's clever because you have a lot of brain power. And the third line, he helps me across puddles. So puddle is just a small pool of liquid, especially rainwater, which is on the ground, and he's going over a puddle in the picture right now. Okay, and the next page, when we go to the park in the evening to play, he uses a horn so people make way. The third line, he uses a horn. You can see in the picture that he's holding the horn right now as his sister is pushing the chair. And a horn is just an instrument or device that makes a really loud sound when you squeeze the red bit at the end. As you can see, he's holding the red section, and it makes a really loud sound to get people's attention. And the last line, so people make way. Make way means to allow room or space for someone or something else. So when people make way, they give him space so that he can travel in his wheelchair. Okay, so let's continue. Going to the market with him is such a treat. He has a rear view mirror for when we're on the street. Sometimes he takes his chair into a shallow stream. I give it a good splash. Oh, how he does scream. When Baba and I take us to the hills for a hike, he puts on special wheels like a mountain bike. All our friends wait for their turn to ride. It feels so good with the arms out wide. He goes so fast, he is called the wheelchair champ. And now all our friends know the house must have a ramp. Okay, so let's go back to page 7 where we started the second section of the story. Let's go through some vocabulary. Going to the market with him is such a treat. Okay, so a market is an open area where people can buy fresh vegetables, meat, spices, anything really, depending on the market, but it's a great place to socialize, and normally they're outside. And she says going to the market with him is such a treat, which is the second line. So let's go through the word treat. When you describe something as a treat, it's something that is very enjoyable and makes a person happy. It's almost like a present. It's almost like a gift of some sort. For example, you can have sweet treats, and instead of saying sweet treats, you can say, we're having candy. But a sweet treat just means something that you definitely will enjoy, and you eat it and it's lovely. And so when something is such a treat, it's something that is a luxury. It's something that you really enjoy and you don't get it all the time. So for example, going to the cinema is such a treat because I don't get to do it that often. Okay, and the third line of that page, he has a rear view mirror. Rear view mirror is a small mirror on the windscreen of a vehicle. So it's the small screen that a driver looks into so that he knows what's behind his vehicle. So just to see what's behind. And you can see that in the picture, there they're making silly faces in the rearview mirror. They're sticking their tongues out. And yeah, just to clarify what that means. And then let's go to the next page. Sometimes he takes his chair into a shallow stream. Okay, so a shallow stream. Shallow just means of little depth. So the water isn't deep at all. In the picture, you can see that his feet are in the water, but it's so shallow that it's just his feet. It doesn't go any deeper than that. So a swimming pool can be shallow as well. A river can be shallow, and yeah, it just means that it's not, the water doesn't reach very low. It's just like, normally it's just like this. And a stream means a small, narrow river. Yeah, as you can see in the picture. Let's go to the next page. When Baba and I take us to the hills for a hike, he puts on special wheels like a mountain bike. Okay, so the second line, to the hills for a hike, it means, a hike means a long walk or a walking tour. So on the picture you can see the father, Baba. He is walking and he's sweating. That's what a hike is. A hike is a very long walk. Normally people go for a hike to see the mountains or up a hill, and it's usually quite long. And the third line, he puts on special wheels. So special in this context just means specific. So specific wheels for these specific circumstances. So he would only use these types of wheels, these special wheels, for this hike. And the last line, like a mountain bike. So a mountain bike is a bike that's just made for mountains and so mountain terrain. So the wheels are thicker, so they have more grip, and it's easier for him to travel upwards, and it's safer for him as well. So this, you can take this as an example as to why this story is important, because people with disabilities, such as needing a wheelchair, they need special equipment to be able to do these exercises with their friends or family. Okay, let's go on to the next page. All our friends wait for their turn to ride. It feels so good with the arms out wide. With the arms out wide. That just means, that's a phrase when you say with my arms out wide, to be welcoming and to be celebrating and to be happy. Yeah, with the arms out wide is just a happy phrase. And to continue, he goes so fast, he is called the wheelchair champ, and now all our friends know. Okay, so the second line of the second paragraph, he is called the wheelchair champ. So champ is a short word for champion, CHAMPION, which is someone who is winning at something. So if you're a champion, you're the best at what you do. And the next page, the house must have a ramp. So a ramp is a sloping surface, a sloping object that joins two different levels. So if you look at the picture, outside the purple and the yellow buildings, you can see there's a wooden ramp that goes up, and that allows him to, that allows her brother to visit their friends a lot easier, and it's more accessible for people with disabilities to go into buildings, especially if they're in a wheelchair. And that's also why the story is so important, is because disability stories in children's books are not usually are not as frequent as other books. So a ramp is basically just an easier way to replace stairs for people in wheelchairs. Okay, so let's go back to page 4. Let's go back to page 4, and we're going to focus on rhyme, okay, just as an example to help you with your pronunciation and tone. So with rhyme, it only works in practice if you read aloud. So you can read it with me and you can practice. You can pause this video, but it's very good for your pronunciation. So page 4, let's read that verse. He has painted both the wheels in blues, yellows and maroons, and sometimes, just for fun, he also ties balloons. So for a rhyme to work, you need to take your time. You need to read one line at a time, even if the sentence continues. So, he has painted both the wheels in blues, yellows and maroons. These two lines is one sentence, but it has been separated into 2 different sections. So you have to pause after reading the word wheels, because you need to take a breath and then move on to the next line. So he has painted both the wheels in blues, yellows and maroons. That makes the reading a lot easier, and you can practice your pronunciation a lot better with rhyme. So altogether, he has painted both the wheels in blues, yellows and maroons, and sometimes, just for fun, he also ties balloons. So as you can see, the word maroons and balloons are pure rhymes. So the syllables sound exactly the same. The N syllables sound exactly the same, and when you read it all together, you end up emphasizing certain words, and it's great for your pronunciation. So when you try to read this story, don't rush it. Take your time and make sure you're opening your mouth and you're practicing your best pronunciation. So he has painted both the wheels in blues, yellows and maroons, and sometimes, just for fun, he also ties balloons. And then the next page, let's try that one. So you can read aloud with me if you want to, or pause this video and try to practice your pronunciation. My brother's very smart. He's got plenty of brains. He helps me across puddles when it rains. So with this rhyme, in the third line, he helps me across puddles when it rains. That is one sentence again, and in a normal book you would just say he helps me across puddles when it rains. But because this is a poem and it rhymes, you have to take your time and make sure that you're not rushing anything, because then the poem loses its rhythm. So he helps me across puddles when it rains. So from the beginning, my brother's very smart. He's got plenty of brains. He helps me across puddles when it rains. Okay, so now that we have covered the rhyme and the poetry of this story quite briefly, let's go through some questions and activities for you to do. So, question number 1. Why is it important for his friends to have ramps for their houses? Question number 2. Can you think of a word that rhymes with ramp? And question number 3, or activity. I want you to complete this rhyme for the end of the book. I'll just give you a quick example. So use the word. So if you found a word that rhymes with ramp, please write another sentence that is also rhyming with that word. So for example, the house must have a ramp, and then you go on to say a sentence such as let me just go through the answers with you first, obviously. So you can pause this video if you want to, just to go through the questions, and you can go back to the questions just so that you can make sure you understand them. Okay, so for question number 1, the answers: why is it important for his friends to have ramps for their houses? So if you remember, her brother is disabled, and he needs a wheelchair to access anything, so he can't walk, and and a ramp would allow him to reach the top of the stairs a lot easier, so his family don't have to carry him, and the ramp just allows him to travel upwards without any trouble. Yeah. And 2, can you think of a word that rhymes with ramp? So this doesn't have, my example is just an example, and you don't have, and you can use any word that rhymes with ramp, of course, but it's actually quite difficult. I don't think a lot of words rhyme with ramp, but I hope that you've had a chance to look in the dictionary, search online, and it doesn't have to be a pure rhyme either, but I'm just going to give you a few seconds just to go over the answers. Okay, so I chose the word stamp. So, and the rhyme, just at the top of my head, you can say, the house must have a ramp. The house must have a ramp, so her brother does not have to stamp. So to stamp, you can stamp your feet. So what I mean by that, the house must have a ramp, so her brother does not have to stamp. So so their family don't have to stamp. So they don't have to carry him up the stairs, and it just makes it a bit more clear why they have a ramp. So the house must have the house must have a ramp, so her family, or so she, does not have to stamp. And this is just a way to be a bit more creative with reading something. When you have a rhyme, when you have a rhyming book, poetry book, then it makes it a lot easier for you to use different words, because you can pick a line out of the book, and then you can write your own poetry, your own rhyme to go with it, and you can practice your pronunciation. So I hope that you've enjoyed that session. I really enjoyed exploring the rhymes and helping you linguistically, and I hope that it's helped your pronunciation and that you find it helpful to have this sort of literary form here. If you have any trouble with this, obviously you can email us or let us know if you would rather just focus on normal storytelling, or if you actually enjoy this poetry. I hope to see you all again next week, and of course if you can't find if you don't have the PDF in front of you already, you can always access them again on the Google document that I will link down below, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.